Hello friends, today we are going to talk about how do we call a BI publisher report from any external application, and while calling that BI publisher we also want to pass some parameter within that URL to call BI publisher so that BI publisher return me specific data related to the parameter which is passed from the URL. So I have a standard use case for this. I have a code screen in Oracle Sales Cloud, and from code detail page what user wants to click on a button to call a BI publisher report. Now while doing so, we also want to pass code ID as a parameter to BI publisher report. So that's pretty standard use case. And now instead of Oracle Sales Cloud, you can have any other application. For this particular demo, I'm using Oracle Sales Cloud, where I have a code screen, and from code screen I'm going to go to code detail page, and from code detail page what I want to click on a button, and on a click of button I want to pass code ID as a parameter to BI publisher report. Now to do this, we'll have to perform following steps. First, we need to have a BI publisher report created. I'm not going to cover how do we create a BI publisher report into this demo. We also need to have a button created in Oracle Sales Cloud which will call BI publisher report, and I'm also not going to cover this part in this demo. And third, what we need to do is build a BI publisher URL which will be called from code detail page on a click of a button. This is what I'm going to cover today in the demo, and we'll talk about how do we go about creating a BI publisher URL where we can pass a parameter from an application so that report shows data based on the parameter filter on the report. Now, so what we are going to talk today is BI publisher, build a BI publisher URL to be called from code detail page on a click of a button. The first step to do this is copy URL of your BI publisher report. What it means, assume you have a BI publisher report created in your system, and then what I want you to do, go to your BI publisher report wherever you have saved, and then from that particular place you open the BI publisher report. In this example, I have created a BI publisher report quotation_v1, and I'm going to open this report by clicking on this open button. Once I click on open button, your BI publisher report will open up something like this, and then what you need to do next, you want to know a URL for this particular BI publisher report, and to do this what you can do, you can right click here and you can go to view page info, and the moment you click on view page info, what you'll get is a pop-up window which will display address of this BI publisher report. As you can see in the pop-up window, I got an address of BI publisher report. I can copy this entire address, and then I can go and use this address for my reference to build BI publisher report. Now since we have copied the URL from the pop-up, your URL would look like something this. The one which I have highlighted in yellow will represent your server URL, and if let's take a look at this particular URL, right? So this particular URL will have BIP path, which gives you path where your BI publisher report has been saved, and this is what I want to copy it, and I want to modify this by removing HTML formatting from this path. To do this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this, all the values after BIP path up to .xdo, and I'll go and place it here, and I'm going to take out HTML additional formatting from here. Now this is the path where my report is currently saved on, and if you have noticed, by default any report which we create for BI Publisher, it always gets saved into shared folder. I mean that is our standard. So within the shared folder I have created a folder called custom, and within that custom I have a folder called demo, and within that demo I have again a folder called code, and within that code I have this report which is quotation_v1.xdo. Now if you have noticed, within this path I do not have shared folder. I mean this particular path is not starting with shared folder, and that is a catch. You need to make sure when you build your URL should not have shared folder in the beginning, something like this, shared folder / custom. If you are using this way, then you'll get some error and you won't be able to go to the report from the URL which we are planning to build. So I need to take this out, and I need to make sure this does not make the path of your report in the URL. Now since I am done with this part, I'll move to the step 2, which is the path, which is step to build the URL and pass the parameter. So to do this, what I need to do now, I need to first take my XMLP server URL, which is your BI Publisher URL, which will be in the similar format, and once I get this particular URL, I have to add path to BI Publisher report. So this is my path to BI Publisher report. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste this here. If you might have noticed, as part of this copy there is an additional step which got introduced. I need to remove this. I need to make sure there is no space between the folder path. Now I have to start adding parameter to this, and in order to add parameter, what you do, you first add a question mark and then you start adding parameter after this. Now as part of this parameter addition, I'll have some standard parameter added to this and some specific parameter where I am trying to pass the parameter from application. Here is a sample of the URL which we will end up finally building this. If you check, I have some standard URL, some standard parameter which I am passing up to this, and then I have XDO as a parameter where I am passing HTML path of the report, which is here, which we got from the report view source, right? So the view page. I'm going to paste this path, and then I have to add again another standard parameter, and then I go to a parameter called params. After params, just after param, I have to add the parameter which I have created in the data model of BI Publisher, on which my BI Publisher report is built. So if I show you what this quote ID exactly means, then I can go to quote data model, which is being used by the report which we are going to use in this demo. So if you check in the data model, there is a parameter which I have created, and the name of the parameter is quote underscore ID. So that's what I need to make sure I add it just after params. And then once I have added this is the parameter coming from my data model, and then I'm going to add a parameter which I'm going to pass from application. Now right now I'm just keeping a placeholder for it. I'll replace it when I go to application to build the URL. After this, I'm going to add some additional parameter. This parameter is for the template of the report. We all know a BI publisher report can be built and it can have multiple templates at the same time. So whatever template name you will provide here, that particular template will be called when you are trying to call BI publisher report quotation underscore v1xto. Now this report potentially can have multiple template, but based on what template name you have provided here, it will only call that particular template. Then I'm going to pass additional parameter where I'm specifying what version I want, what kind of document I want. So I want a PDF format to open up when I click on that URL, and that's where I specified PDF. And this is the last parameter where auto run is true, and then I am done with building the URL which has to be called from the application. The only thing which we need to replace within this URL is quote ID field, which application has to pass to this particular URL. And of course, this URL has to be removed with your real server URL to point it to XMLP server. Now once I'm done with this, I'll go and copy this and move to step 3. But before moving to step 3, let me show you how do I come to know what is the template name for a BI publisher report. So if you open your BI publisher report, you'll see that your template name appears at this place. And if for this particular report I have multiple templates, then it will show me in multiple tabs like here, and I can pick one of the template. For this particular demo, I'm using only one template for the BI publisher report, and that's why I see quotation coming here. This is what I have used here in the parameter of XD. Next, in step 3, what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the URL which we just built from the application. Now in order to do this, I have to log into application, and I can log in by clicking on the navigator. And once I click on the navigator, I can go to application composer. Once I go to what I have to make sure I pick the application from the drop down. The application which I am using right now is sales, so I'm going to pick sales here. And then I'm going to expand this custom object, because code in my case is a custom object which I'm using. I'm going to expand this and going to pick a particular custom object called, and then from that code I will go to action and links. Within an action and link, I have already created an action called view OEM code. So I'm going to edit this particular link, and this is a place I'm going to add the new URL which I have just generated. And so I'm going to click on this edit. Once I go to edit, I can see that this is an action link created with a type called action, and that's why it is going to appear as a button in my screen. And I have selected source as an URL, and this URL will always open in a new window. So next, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to scroll down to the end and I'm going to add my URL. Before I add an URL, I have to put double quote here, and between this I'm going to put my URL. So let me copy my URL first. So I have copied URL now. I'm going to put the URL in between the double inverted, and then I'm good here. I also have to make sure I replace this particular URL with my server URL, and then the only thing I'm left with updating values at this place. Now in order to replace this value, I have to select a field. So to do this, I'll go and click on this field view, which will show me all the fields for the object, and it will also show me all the fields for all the different related object associated to this. For now I wanted to pass quote ID, so I'm going to pick field from quote itself, and then I'm going to scroll down on this side to find the field. I located this record ID field here, so I'm going to highlight this field, and then I'm going to insert this field, and what I get here is an ID. So I can copy this, can go to my URL, and I'm going to replace this with the value ID. So that's how I have completed my URL. Only thing you need to make sure your URL is here should be replaced with your server URL, and then you are good to go ahead and save this. Once you click on save, this is going to be saved, and now it's time to go to step 4, which is testing. Now in order to test this, I'm going to go to code object, and I'll go to the detail page of code, where I should be able to see a button with view OEM code PDF, and if I click on that button, I should be able to see a report coming with a specific ID passed as a parameter from this URL. So let me go to the code. When I go to the code detail page, I can see the button which has been created, and if I click on this particular button, it should open a report in BI Publisher, and it should also pass an ID for the code number which I am right now on it. You can see I have clicked on that button, and then it took me to a BI Publisher report where code number is passed, and I can only see that code which was there in the Oracle Sales Cloud page, and it is showing me only that particular code. You can also see a specific code ID is passed here in the parameter while opening this report, and the template which I have passed in the URL as quotation. That's how you go about adding a BI Publisher report to any application, and you can also pass parameter from that application.